Let's not look at hear from Rotimi. We'll get back to the figures before we wrap up this session with him. Good morning, Rotimi.
Good morning, Bolaji.
Thank you for joining us on the program. We saw the market closing in the positive territory last Friday. Could you tell us what happened?
Well, I believe strongly that there's still good bargain for various stocks, and we saw quite some figures that are very attractive to investors, which necessitated eventual closure of the market in the positive territory. Although, like I mentioned earlier on, we've seen the Osha index towering at about 38,000 basis points and later dropped down. But I think basically what is responsible is the drop we saw in some high cap stocks in the names like Nigerian Breweries, Guinness, Nestle Foods, and Dangote Cement. But we saw all of that changing towards the end of the trading session on Friday. But I think basically what is most important here to note is that there are some stocks that have actually shown a very good appreciation in recent time. Which definitely is going to impact positively on that particular stock. But again, another stock worthy of note is 40 Oil PLC. I think we saw it as one of the major gainers during the week, although after a time the price stabilized at about 115 naira 64 kobo. And I think for that stock is coming from a background whereby background of restructuring, background of non-profit making in recent years. But with the restructuring that has taken place in that company, we have seen it come back to profitability, coming behind from a profit of 0.6 billion now to over 2.7 billion in the third quarter.
If you can hear me, I will get back to 40 Oil and Transco, which I know the big players in the energy sector in terms of having to take over some of the companies from the unbundling of the PHCN. But I want to stick to the stock market for a while before we move on to these activities or the performance of the stocks. Okay. The effect of highly capitalized stocks, we've seen stocks like Guinness, Nigerian Breweries actually dropping part of the shares a few weeks ago. Now, how did they fare last week, despite the fact that the stock market actually closed in positive territory? Was there any impact at all from these highly capitalized stocks on the market itself?
Yeah, I think there was significant impact. The likes of Dangote Cement, the combination of Dangote Cement and Nigerian Breweries is responsible for over 35% of the total market capitalization. So whatever directions these two stocks go, it definitely is going to have a great impact. If they go negative during the trading of the day, it's likely to drag the market down. And if it goes positive, it's likely it will definitely take the market up. We saw that happening in a very substantive way during the week. But on Friday, when we saw the direction changing for these stocks, then the tide turned again, and we saw the Osha index closing positive for that day, and eventual closure of the closing of the index and the positive territory. So I think these highly capitalized stocks have a very long way to go in the market. Before now, it used to be the banking sector stocks that used to dominate the market capitalization, but all that have since gone, and we have a different scenario. So Dangote Cement definitely has a lot of impact. Likewise, Nigerian Breweries and also the likes of the Nestle Foods, when the loss in that particular stock is very high. Like we saw on the day that it lost 45 naira, it definitely impacted negatively on the market. And so it's been like that for now. And I think with more listing on the market, we definitely will get better results.
Okay. Rotimi, what happened to the banks? You said that the banks' dominance on the market has long gone. What happened to them?
No, what I said about the market is about the banking sector stocks. I said before now, the banking sector stocks used to dominate the market capitalization. They were responsible for over 40% at the time. But thereafter, we saw a shift whereby the consumer goods and industrial goods are taking the lead. And that is exactly what we are seeing presently now.
So we're seeing a shift in the appetite of actually investors in that regard. We're seeing the appetite, a shift in appetite could be responsible for that, I want to believe.
Well, not really in that sense. Although maybe in recent time we've seen a situation whereby the appetite for banking sector stocks have really gone down, and because of the so much uncertainty that pervades the market, we saw the CRR impacting negatively on the market and a host of other regulatory policies, and I think that has really affected it. But all in all, I think the shares in consumer goods and industrial goods have really taken the lead.
Okay. I want us to look at the compliance of quoted companies to the International Financial System, the IFRS. How has that impacted on the financials? I understand that some of these companies are filing their reports later than expected.
Yes, that is very correct. Up till now, we are in the month of November, having just a month to go for the year 2013. There are still a lot of companies that have not turned in their results. And maybe when I was talking with listing and regulations department of the Nigerian Stock Exchange last week, I was told that they were giving the reason of the IFRS conversion, that for them to come from GAAP to IFRS, that's giving them a lot of trouble. And that has been basically the reason why they have not turned in their results. So I think for a lot of companies, they are having so much challenges, and which has really hindered them from actually presenting their financials to the Nigerian Stock Exchange. Is
that going to have any impact on the shares on the bourse?
Well, I think the market is driven by information. When there is no adequate information, the market, whatever stocks that is not giving the market adequate information, then that stock is definitely going to stagnate in price, or even investors may begin to dump them. And we have already seen that happening in a lot of stocks that have not really turned in their results. Is it that there is no bargain for those stocks, or the price continually goes down? And we've seen that quite well in some securities.
Okay, now let's not talk about the companies involved in the privatization in the power sector. Of course, I understand Transco Nigeria and Forty Oil. Could you tell us how these companies are faring on the local bourse now?
Well, I think for the likes of Transco, it's gained over 400%. For Transco, for Forty Oil, it's gained over 1,143% in a period of about 52 weeks. And I think much of this gain came for Forty Oil prior to the time that news came around that they have won the bid for the Gedegu power plant. And that alone has really impacted positively, coupled with the fact that their profit after tax has really gained a good leap. And basically for information coming, we have that about 5 billion naira is going to be added to the bottom line of Forty Oil PLC by the time we enter into the year 2014. So coupled with how well they are doing now, plus what we're going to get when they have really stabilized concerning the Gedegu power plant, then definitely the sky is the limit for Forty Oil PLC. And I believe basically that Transcorp PLC, they have not given us an idea of what this figure is going to look like with the operations of the power plant that they acquired. And I think by the time we have these figures, it's definitely going to explain the reason why investors should buy more of these shares and why they should also retain what they already have.
What other fundamentals are driving these stocks? Because you mentioned that Forty Oil jumped over 1,000% after it took over one of the plants, in generating plants in Nigeria. Apart from that information, what are the fundamentals are driving the performance of these stocks?
Well, I think two things to note here. When you look at some of the stocks in the petroleum marketing sectors, I think all of them are, majority of them are having their total shares in issue at about 1 billion naira. And Forty Oil falls in this category. And secondly, for the fact that over the years, they have not paid dividend. And this time around, the group chief executive of Forty Oil had already given his word that by the time we conclude this financial year, they're really going to pay a very robust dividend that's going to delight investors. And I think this is the reason why a lot of investors have really put their money into it, and more so for the future of the company. At least they are in two sectors of the economy that are very viable, and this still has a wide room to grow in terms of turnover, in terms of profitability. And I think with the provision of the power sector and Forte Oil being in that particular group of the companies that took over some of the power generating plants, I think basically there is so much ahead for this company and also Transcorp.
All right, thank you, Rotimi Fakaija. To let you go, I've been talking to Rotimi Fakaija, the CEO at Enterprise Stockbroking Firm, giving us insight into what happened last week. Of course, the latest information is that there's been a jump in the performance of stocks like Forte Oil and Transcorp Nigeria. Of course, these two companies took over some of the generating companies in Nigeria when the companies were finally handed over by the government to the new private sector players. And so these two companies are actually pulling some weight on the market as we speak. We hope to get updates from Rotimi later on in the day. Of course, giving you such updates tomorrow on the program. We'll go on a break now, and when we come back, we'll go into the newsroom. Of course, Jackie Regis is standing by to give us some of the headlines making the rounds. Please join us again.